Welcome to UniqueCreatives ChCh. 48 projects, 20 minutes, 6 questions, 1 city. A special interview series documenting the range and quality of creative projects taking place in post-quake Christchurch. This is Nick here with the In the Loop Unique Creative series. I'm with Bev Lowen at the White Room creative space over with Skillwise. Bev, thank you for meeting with me this afternoon, a sunny Friday, and there's a lot of things going on here. It doesn't feel like the weekend's among us. Do you want to talk to us perhaps a little bit about how you came to be in this space? You've been coming along to In the Loop for a number of times now, pretty much since the start, so we're pleased to be here and really seeing what it is that you do, and as a unique creative, how your practice and your influence here in the creative sector of Christchurch plays out. So we'd love to hear a bit more about it, and over to you. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, the White Room creative space, just like In the Loop, really came out of a need for people who want to use art as a form of expression, really, and a form of communication. I came on board quite some time ago. I'm not an artist myself, but I saw that the people that I work with are predominantly people with intellectual disability, which is what Skillwise is, supporting people with intellectual disability, and just seeing the people that were into doing art that come along to Skillwise, and just the thrill they get out of doing their art, creating things, and so I just wanted to really support them to have that opportunity and to have the tools they need. So the White Room has been developing over the last couple of years. Skillwise was in the centre of Christchurch when the earthquake happened and we lost our building, and it took us quite some time to find another space. So this is very different. We're out in Wainoni now, and the area where we're sitting, Nick and I today, is part of the ChCh Church, which is part of the building we share with them, and this was a big old barn of a storage room with a whole lot of junk in it. And when I saw it with the skylights and the natural light in here, I could just see the potential for a creative space. So it's been up and running now for probably 18 months, 2 years. And what the whole aim of this space is to not have people with intellectual disability isolated from the rest of the community. And so we're just really opening up the doors more and more, so we're inviting other art tutors to come in and do workshops, and that's been happening over the last year, just year and a bit, with people who use Skillwise, and now we're just taking it the next step. We had a big open day a few months back, and what we're doing now is just opening up the doors for other artists in the community to come in and share the space. So, there's quite a few artists that work at home that don't have space, especially if they want to work big. And so we're, giving them that opportunity here. And so it's about artists getting together, sharing ideas, dreams, techniques, whatever. Some of the artists here don't want anybody to tell them how to do their art. They are self-taught, and that's the way they like it. They come in, they use the space, and don't have any interference from anybody. But there's other people who want to learn about new techniques and different ways of doing things, so we want to provide that as well.
Yeah, it's awesome to just give a bit of a picture of what we're sitting in, and it was new to me to come along today, and there's a bunch of people working with textiles in that corner over there. We've got the model train set, which is just established currently but going to be set up again, and people working with prints, and a couple of posters here also talking about some of those workshops that you talk about coming up, stone painting and printmaking. And I'm amazed coming in here straight away at how bright it is and colourful with all of the pieces, and one really awesome striking thing about that is that many of them are framed, and I think that's awesome. So we'll carry on with the interview, but I'm putting the word out there that it's really colourful and beautiful, and I hope that many people do come and take you up on that offer to use the spaces.
Great.
Share their art.
Great.
So what is it about working one, it's skill-wise, and in specifically the White Room that inspires you?
Well, it's about people meeting other people, really. That's one of the things that really inspires me, and just about breaking down barriers to enable that to happen, for people to be able to meet people. And the neat thing about art and working with art in particular is, for me, is seeing how that does break down barriers. We had an art exhibition at the Canterbury Museum earlier in the year, January, and we had artwork from people with intellectual disability, people from mainstream, from the University of Canterbury, prisoners' art, people with mental health issues, and the art was displayed in a way that you didn't know what art you were looking at. And so that's really the crux of the whole thing for me, and for the vision of skill-wise, that everybody has preconceived ideas. As soon as we start having a conversation, I think we start to have attitudes and our own thoughts, and so it's great to just knock out those attitudes that might be ill-conceived or not right, really. So that's what inspires me. Yeah.
Wow, awesome. And you see, just going back to that first question, that you're not too much of an artist, but I disagree, because creating all of this kind of thing and getting these people in together, again, just looking around, I can tell that you can tell what art is. So do you have a preferred medium that, since you've been here, of these sections and things like that really does inspire you as well, or wants to get you going and involved?
I think my what I love is what can be termed as outsider art, or art that people have never been trained or taught, but that it just seems to come from somewhere, and that just right from the start, from seeing some of these artists, what they can do, it just has amazed me, and just blows my mind, and that's why I've sort of thought I would like to provide them with what they want, so that the world can see this, and so one of the things that we do is provide opportunities for exhibitions, and my ideal as well for that is for an exhibition not to be isolated for people with an intellectual disability or just for outsider art, but for artists, and we had an exhibition at the Linwood Community Gallery also, I think that was in April, and that was called Six Artists. So we had Nellick was one of them, one of the tutors here. We had some people from the White Room and just local artists, so that's the sort of thing that's inspiring, really. Yeah.
That's a great answer. So how, beyond where it's at now, would you like to, or are you working on to make sure that, I guess, that is able to, that what you're creating here and what people are creating here, these artists is able to get out to the wider Christchurch community? And you talked about an exhibition that you've got coming up. Maybe you could shed some light on that one as well.
We've got an art auction coming up.
Auctions.
And what I'd like to see and what we're aiming towards is, the White Room as a concept. It's not just the space, and as you can see, and it'd be great if the space was a lot bigger, but, well, maybe it would or maybe it wouldn't, because what it does with it being this size is it makes us go out, so we're open to talking to other tutors, art tutors, and anybody who's got an interest in doing art or providing art services. We can go anywhere, really, in Christchurch. So that's what we want to do, is we want to take this concept and this vision anywhere that people are interested, so out of the four walls. Yeah. But yeah, the auction we're having is to really help raise some money for both Skill-Wise and the White Room, and also once again to just to help people be more informed of what we're about, So that's going to be in November, and that's we're asking for not just art, but goods and services, so we can have a silent auction as well, make it a fun night, so everybody can go away with something. Yeah, but yeah, we've got some very interesting artists right across the board once again, and some interesting art. So we have a White Room newsletter, which you can find information on our Facebook page as well, about all of that. So
cool.
Yeah.
So we'll put the links in hopefully with that as well, and otherwise we'll be keeping an eye out for the auction.
Great, yeah.
That sounds great. What is your how long have you been working with Skillwise?
Well, I've been working with Skillwise for 8 years.
Yeah.
So that was in Chum Street at Soul Square when I first came on board, and then we moved to Gloucester Street just by the library until the earthquake. And I had a year and a half maybe of moving my role, excuse me, and I did employment support. So we have an employment support branch here for people who want to get, supporting people with intellectual disability who want to get paid employment. So employment support role is to find jobs for them where they will get paid the normal wage like anybody else. And before I did that, I was involved in the art side a bit, supporting artists, and I really missed that when I was in employment support. I was a bit like a square peg in a round hole, really, and I used to think, I don't like this, not hard sell, but, getting out there and networking, I suppose you'd call it. And yet the funny thing is now I find I do that, but when I came back into left employment support side of things and got back into the art side of things, it became more natural, I think, because I'm so passionate about it, and so it works. It's not networking, it's just making connections, which is another word for it, isn't it, really?
We do love connections within the loop.
Yeah.
So your earliest sort of connection to the creativity and to the creative world, would that be before Skillwise, or do you want to talk a wee bit about that for you?
I've always been, I'm saying I'm not an artist, but I've always written stories and poetry, and sung.
Awesome. Note so that we can hear that at some other stage. Just said it.
Play the guitar a little bit,
awesome.
That sort of thing, and I think I've always been interested in things outside what I suppose you call the norm, or things that are challenging. So, yeah.
Lots of hidden talents by the sound of it. More to unearth there, I think. What do you think? So this is a bit of a wider question, and you actually your networking and the connectivity that you spoke of just now is really, really a great part of what we're leading into. So what do you think the arts and creativity are bringing to Christchurch currently?
Well, I can see, certainly I think since earthquake days, people are more open to collaborating, right across the board, just if you make contact with somebody, they just, I think people are more open to working together to everybody's advantage, and that's how I see it, yeah.
Do you have a favourite example of that for you?
Well, I suppose last year was a really good one. We had we contacted Stephen Hardman from University of Canterbury, and so he does all the internships, and through him he introduced me to, as soon as he came here, we met, had a chat. He said, I know the person for this, and I met her, and so Gail came on board and did her internship here as part of her degree in the arts, so that was fantastic, and the thing from that is that it just didn't stop there, it still is going on. We've got one of our staff, Alicia, who supports people. Well, it started off actually as a book club, but it's kind of morphed into a film club, and they've made a movie, and through Gail, Gail introduced another intern to the drama group, and he, even though his internship's finished, he's still with the movie group, you know, or drama group, or whatever you like to call it. It's not a drama group yet, it's a movie group. And so, yeah, that's a great example, you know. And I think because in the arts, you know, in the past it has been quite... Bye, Pauline. In the arts it has been kind of what do you call it, you know, there can be narrow attitudes, you know, and people won't connect with other people, and, you know, so once you get an opportunity, like, to have a collaboration, it just starts to break down those walls. And, you know, what I see here, you know, there's people that can go from here, people with intellectual disability, and they'll go down to the Brighton Gallery, and that's Judy who's doing these workshops. She's stone painting workshops, and she's from the Brighton Gallery. And, you know, if you have one or two people with an intellectual disability going down to somewhere like that, they just get accepted as a person. You know, the once again, those preconceived thoughts about person with a disability are wiped away, and people are seen in the light they should be seen. You know, yeah.
That's pretty special.
Yeah,
and that's awesome. Cool. I'm a bit overwhelmed with that answer. It's really humbling to be around these great people when they're leaving. That was a bunch of them finishing for the day.
Yep,
ready for Friday.
It's all out.
I've got maybe one more question, but after this one, who would you like to interview, and what would you ask them given any chance?
Well, it's
a big question.
It is, and I saw that question down there, and I put the paper away when I was at home, and I thought I'll give that some thought, you know, and I haven't given it some thought. So, I mean, how can I answer from everybody in the world, you know? I would have quite liked to have met Edith Piaf.
You may have to tell us more about Edith.
Well, she's a singer. I think they called her the Little Sparrow from around the war years or just after the war years, and she's French, and she's just got the most beautiful voice, you know. But yeah, I don't know, I'm happy to meet anybody, really. I'm just
You're great.
Yeah, the world's, you know, I mean, I can't really, you know, I say her, but just as much as her, I would like to meet anybody, really, you know, or everybody, you know, yeah.
And I have one final question. What does the courage for creativity mean to you?
The courage for creativity. Well, I think to be able to express yourself from your heart, and not let anything stop that happening, you know. Yeah, I think that's probably it in a few words, really, yeah.
You'd be in a pretty good place if everyone was doing that, hey? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, for allowing me to come out here and be all around the space and to meet some of these great people and see what they've been working on. I know this is only one small piece of an afternoon, of a day, of a week, of, you know, the work that you have been doing here and will continue to do. So from In the Loop, thank you for being a part of our network and for continuing to grow those circles, sharing your talents and what the work that you and the team do here at Skillwise in the White Room. And we very much look forward to seeing what comes next.
Yeah.
And with a few of those key dates locked in, and we'll look forward to hearing some of your guitar playing, perhaps, or some of your poetry.
I don't know. I'm sort of probably more of a back, you know, sitting in the back. You know, another creative thing that I did for quite a few years. I had my own shop and made shirts and hand dyed shirts and things like that. I feel more comfortable rather than playing the guitar. I feel more comfortable sitting back and making a shirt.
Yeah. Oh, you're a real trooper.
But I want to thank you for your work that you've been doing. You know, it's just neat. You know, and those In the Loop meetings. I haven't been to the last few, but they're just so inspirational. You know, each time there's just always people there that, you know, you can get, you know, food for thought. You know, and and it's just a neat place to be able to meet other people, other creative people. So
well, thank you for the kind
great,
words,
yeah.
and Hannah is the big kudos due there.
She's
Credit's due.
very cool. Yeah,
She is.
yeah.
And yes, we'll talk again soon, and hope to see you at the next In the Loop. But this series, the Unique Creative series, Bev, thank you for your time. 48 projects, 20 minutes, 6 questions in one city. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Nick. Fantastic.
Proudly supported by the Christchurch Creative Communities Scheme NZ and Orange Studios.